Greetings viewers. Welcome back to CoffeeChillTV and welcome to another little bit of retiree, expat, slow travel talk. And yes, you're watching CoffeeChillTV, where it's always free. And it's always great to like, share and subscribe, comment, tell a friend, etc. Let's get into today's talking points. So, okay viewers, it's Sunday morning here on the Sunshine Coast and there's a lot of rain around. There's a bit of a break in the weather at the moment. I was actually going to visit a seaside market this morning and do a little bit of a walkabout vlog, but the weather conspired and as a result I've decided to make this video. And yeah, there's probably, besides the weather, number one, in a immediate practical sense, there are 5 other drivers that kind of kick-started my motivation in making today's video. And folks, today's video is, it's all about, I suppose, those anchors, those rudders, those levers, variables, for good times in retirement. Let's get into it. Voila. Yeah, I'm not super high tech. I don't have a support team on my channel. This is tripod selfie mode. Me, myself and I producing this video with live to tape narration. So if it's a little bit clumsy and clunky and lacks those slick Hollywood production values, hey, just roll with it, folks. So today's video, I read an article just about half an hour ago by financial guru, finfluencer Noel Whittaker. And it was in today's edition of the Sunday Mail. And I'll put all the details of this article in the notes. And yeah, this was an article. The article was called How to Navigate Retirement's Hidden Traps. How to navigate retirement's hidden traps. And I'm just going to zero in on one section of the article, where the author, Noel Whittaker, identifies, according to him, the 4 key factors that can lead to a healthy and happy retirement. According to the author, 1, diet. 2, exercise. 3, a sense of purpose. Number 4, a social network. So I'm going to share some experiences as well as some perspectives from others, and my take sliced and diced with some external sources. And it's the 4 key factors that lead to a happy, healthy retirement. Let's go. And folks, I've got one of my favorite coffee cups, the Busy Bee coffee cup, and that's going to be relevant as we get deeper into this video log. I'd also like to say that if you're settling in to watch this video, grab yourself a cuppa, tea, coffee, hot, cold, whatever your poison. Get comfy, because there's 4 factors, but there's a bit of meat on the bones. All right. Oh, this channel is powered by coffee. All right, viewers. So, wasn't just the one article in today's Sunday Mail. There was another article. This one, Under the Grandfluence. And who wrote this article? Kerry McCallum. In the same escape travel lift out of today's Sunday Mail. Now, Noel Whittaker, he's a finfluencer, portmanteau, compound noun, finance influencer. Kerry McCallum, she spoke about the grandfluences, okay, grandfluences, the rise of the over 60s social media influencer, loading up YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. And I'm going to read a quote from Kerry McCullum, which I think is relevant to today's discussions. Here we go. Yeah, got the goggles on. There's a bit of background noise in the street, but just rise above that, folks. Here's a direct quote from Kerry McCullum, head of travel, Sunday Mail, talking about the grandfluencers. Okay. Given younger influencers often portray a carefully curated view of the world and are hence less reliable, the grandfluencers stand out for their authenticity, wisdom, and reliability. In other words, keeping it real. What do you reckon about that quote, folks? You know what? I'm on board with Kerry McCullum's opinion on that one. Folks, we're going to come back to authenticity and keeping it real when we come down the tail end of today's video. We talk about sense of purpose, but as the rain picks up, what else was sort of driving me to today's vlog, and I'm also going to cross-reference it later as well. It was another vlog, another travel vlogger on YouTube. Let me tell you about a vlog I watched from this gentleman just a few days ago. Okay, goggles are on. So this was a vlog. It's only about maybe 48 hours ago I watched this vlog. The vlogger, who I've been following just for a short time, I like this guy. He definitely keeps it real. He doesn't candy coat stuff. Retired and Living the Dream is the name of his channel. And the vlog that I watched was Retirement with Purpose in Thailand. Circle back to it and we come to that final point. Second last point, I think it is, sense of purpose. But, I watched that vlog and it was like, yeah, hey, I should give you my take on that as well. Additionally, folks, a couple of my own vlogs. Yes, gratuitous cross-promotion on CoffeeChillTV. So I did one recently, retirement and the ghost in the machine. And yeah, I spoke about the fact that, you can become a ghost in retirement. And, I extolled the virtues of purpose and some strategies around that. I've also done a video on slow travel and on the expat bubble, and they're all kind of fused and interconnected. Enough of the impetus. Let's get into the meat in the pie. The 4 keys to a happy and healthy retirement. Let's go. So, folks, number 1 on the list, according to the article I just finished reading about half an hour ago, diet. And if I looked at all 4, the weakest link for yours truly is diet. I do like my food, and just to be candid, the biggest source of content created on my social media revolves around food and drink. Okay, foodie travel vlogger. The genesis of this YouTube channel was all about, here's coffee and a croissant. What a good combination. Okay, so yeah, that's probably the weakest link for me in retirement. But some other key points on that one. And so yeah, look, just to add to the point on Diet, yeah, it's probably my weakest link. Some things I do so I don't get totally out of control and, have a negative experience when I go to my general practitioner doctor every year for the checkup is I try to look at a continuum when it comes to things like alcohol. I try to have at least 4 AFDs per week. AFD, alcohol-free days. Friday night, I'm probably going to have, beer and pizza. It's a pretty good chance of that. Saturday night, I might go out and be sociable, have a couple of drinks. The big challenge to the AFDs for me is when I do go on holiday. So if I go away for 10 nights, and I don't know about you viewers, but this one is tough because you're in holiday mode. And, I go out and visit a night market in Bangkok and it's 35 degrees and I've walked around and done some footage. It's kind of tempting to sit down and have some sherbets and some din. So, it's not easy, but, I'm working on it. And coming back to that point about the continuum, I see vloggers out there, bloggers and vloggers who are kind of prohibitionists. They want people who drink beer and wine and spirits to be hung, drawn and quarters. They're kind of radical anti-alcohol people. You're going to bring back prohibition. How did that work out last time? Not too good. At the other end, you've got the kind of barfly drunkard who, just sits around all day and becomes miserable and, geez, you don't want to be at that end of the extreme either. Obviously, I'm not a dietitian, obviously. But yeah, look, the sensible centre, a little bit of moderation, and yeah, that's all I can really say about that because I'm certainly no nutritionist. Let's move to the next point. Okay, the next point number 2, exercise. Also room for improvement for yours truly. How about you? So for me, at the moment, I've got a busted left shoulder. I can't do those intense gym workouts that I used to be able to do. Getting it fixed next year. But in the meantime, there's no excuse for yours truly to not go for a walk. And I love going for a walk. And, walkability, it's a factor in my choice of where to travel and where I'm going to stay when I travel. So to expand on that, once again, in the back catalogue of CoffeeChillTV, you'll see a couple of vlogs. You'll see one at Nakhon Phanom, Walking Street. Now, that's an amazing place, Nakhon Phanom. And just getting another Java hit, folks. Nakhon Phanom. It's got this, I don't know, must be how many kilometres long is it? Must be close to 10, could be more kilometres long. Boulevard, okay, and Saturday night, Walking Street, Nakhon Phanom. Now, here's where I can sort of mix it up a bit. I like my food, I like my drink, and, sense of purpose in retirement. I like to make content for social media. So, Saturday night, Nakhon Phanom. Easy flat walk, long flat walk, get a bit of cardio in, exercise, okay, and, purpose in retirement. I create some social media content out of it. I chose a hotel with an easy flat walk to Walking Street. Fast forward a few years later, I'm staying at the Urangan Motor Inn, Harvey Bay. Harvey Bay has an amazing esplanade. It's 15 kilometres long, Urangan to Point Vernon. Okay, it's got great walkability. So, in retirement, when I travel to certain locations, I want to keep up my walking. I want to keep up how many steps it is. I don't have one of those pedometers, but, I want to keep up the walking when I'm on holidays. Finally, a point about, I suppose, networking. And I was at a lunch years ago, a financial planning industry luncheon, back in my old corporate days, and I was chatting to another financial planner. He told me he's getting close to retirement, and he had a house on the hill, side the hill, in I think North Butterham. He sold it, and he's now living in a house that's flat at Pelican Waters. He said walkability was a key driver, you know, and in retirement he wants to really get into the walking. I mean, he's walking a lot now, he told me, but he chose his permanent address to be at a place where there is good walkability. So there you go, guys. You know, I'm no fitness guru, all right, but, you know, walkability, walking, a bit of a routine is a good one. I've got another little bit of wisdom from a famous vlogger and blogger. Here we go. So, folks, this video, it's kind of podcast style, isn't it? And, you know, if he's not the most successful or popular podcaster on the planet, he's in the top 5, Joe Rogan. Now, I saw a Joe Rogan vlog about a year or so ago, and in regards exercise, and he was extolling the virtues of an ice bath and a cold shower. I've never been in for an ice bath. I see a lot of sports people do it as part of their recovery, but the cold shower, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting. And just in the paper earlier today as well, another Joe Burgess, a rugby league, Super League winger, was also extolling the virtues of a cold shower. And in both cases, Joe Burgess, Joe Rogan, were saying that the cold shower gets them moving. Okay, and you know what? I've tried it. It does work. You know, there's been times when I've woken up and gone, oh, I should go for that walk. Coffee helps. So does a cold shower. What about you, viewers? You've got a strategy on that one? You know, when you're maybe not super motivated, what gets you moving in the mornings or the afternoons? All right, number 3, a sense of purpose. And, you know, if I come back to that video I mentioned at the start, you know, this guy, this other vlogger, he was volunteering at an animal refuge. And he talked about the joy he got from a little bit of part-time volunteering. It gives him a sense of purpose, okay? And, you know, for yours truly, creating this content, okay, gives me a sense of purpose. In another one of my vlogs on, I think it was motivation and methodology, an Udon Thani walkabout story. In that vlog, I talk about the fact that, you know, once I retired, I wanted to have some meaningful projects, including my, you know, visit the 19 provinces in Thailand and, you know, a little bit of volunteer work. But my YouTube channel, it's evolving. Okay, you will see more of this type of content. And that's all interlinked with that sense of purpose, because I met with one of my followers last year, and he said to me, he said, you know, Dave, why don't you do more commentary, podcast style material? And he kind of encouraged me. He said, you're a retired teacher, you're a retired financial planner, a veteran traveler, you know, a seasoned expat. And, you know, if I come back to that point about the grandfluencers, you know, a lot of younger so-called influencers in the expat travel, you know, space, do they keep it real? What's their credibility? A 25-year-old telling you about your golden years? I reckon a little bit of grey hair helps with the authenticity. So my background, yeah, okay, I've got stuff to bring to the table. I can add some value, I hope. That ties into the sense of purpose. And once again, the rise of the grandfluencers, You know, I watched some last year. I was planning a trip, and I'm still planning a trip to the New South Wales North Coast. I watched travel influencers. I watched young couples like British backpackers, and they're all really fun and interesting, you know, talking about going up and down Bellingen and Ballina and Byron and Coffs Harbour. But you know what? The best material I watched, grandfluencers, you know, retired Aussie couples, you know. Some of them had caravans, some of them didn't, some of them had RVs, but for me, they had great source credibility. They were positive, they were also authentic. So there you go, guys. That's kind of a key part for me on that sense of purpose piece in the jigsaw of the 4 key elements. Also, when it comes to that sense of purpose as one of the 4 keys to the happy, healthy retirement, helping out. Okay, now I mentioned about how I met a chap at a financial planning networking lunch, and he told me about walkability and moving to a place that was more walkable. Excuse me. In retirement, you know, I'm not going to turn up at a financial planner's luncheon. Look kind of ridiculous. I think I'd be kind of underdressed here in my classroom. What a great bar that is in Pattaya, Thailand. A little bit underdressed and a little bit irrelevant, okay? But in retirement, you know, when I was before I retired as a financial planner, I had clients who were active in clubs like Lions, like Rotary, okay? The local garden club, okay? And that gave them a sense of purpose. It was also a bit of networking, and we're going to finish up on networking shortly, but that gave them a sense of purpose, okay? One of my clients, he was the president of the local chapter of the Self-Funded Retirees Association. This guy, when he was working, he was like the national head of operations for a major organisation. In retirement, he's using those skills. He continues to contribute, just like the gentleman who's at the, at the animal refuge, that vlogger I mentioned. Continue to contribute, continue to have a sense of purpose. All right. Now, folks, if you're new to the channel, forewarned is forearmed. I do like random musical references. Now, in the 1970s, one of my favourite songs, Billy Swan, Let Me Help. Great song. There's a lyric in there which goes something like, it would sure do me good to do you good. Let me help. Do me good to do you good. Okay. Now, I'm trying to be a good neighbour, okay, here. And I've got a story of a really good neighbour. One of my friends lives on the Kahlua coast. And, you know, she's got some mobility issues. She's got this amazing neighbour, according to her, you know, bends in and out every week. If there's a light bulb, needs to be changed. If a gate or a fence paling needs to be repaired, he's there. And you know what? I'm playing amateur psychologist. I don't know the guy, but it's good for him. It's good for her. Everybody wins. Everybody wins, okay? When you put a little bit back in and you continue to contribute. Gives you a sense of purpose, and, you know, don't believe folks who tell you you don't need a purpose in retirement. In my experience, you do, guys. Don't be aimless. You've got something to contribute. You've got latent skills. You know, you've got abilities and knowledge sitting in the freezer. Open up the freezer, defrost it, share it. That's my advice. Okay, folks, the last point in the article was the social network. And, you know, happy, healthy retirement is contingent on also having a social network. So I've given a couple of examples. The Lions Club, the Rotaries Club, all right. I remember another story. I remember I was in Pattaya, Thailand, many years ago. And I was in a bar, I was just having a beer and just casually chatting to another expatriate. He was an Aussie guy, and he talked about how, you know, next week he was going to Pats. Expats. He's going to an expat club in Pattaya. And I could see that he was getting a sense of meaning from going to Pats. Okay. Going to the expat club in Pattaya, for this guy, you know, it's a chance to get some fast friends. You know, maybe you don't want to join an expat club or a Lions club or a Rotary club or the Garden Club. All right. But yeah, you know, expand your network a little bit in retirement. In one of my earlier videos, you know, retirement and the ghost and the machine, you're retired. Your work network, it's not going to be there. If it is, it's not going to be in the same way that it was while you were working. Also, you know, family and friends, you know, that can change, particularly if you move to a different location. So guys, you know, yeah, I'm a big fan. I do believe that, you know, the social network is important. A little caveat on that, another one of my earlier videos, escaping the expat bubble. Just be careful. You know, you can get into a bubble in some networking groups. So, you know, the Self-Funded Retirees Association, you know, is everyone of the same demographic and psychographic as you? If, you know, down at the expat club, okay, is it an echo chamber? Okay, so variety is the spice of life. So yeah, expand your social network. Maybe don't just have one circle. Have a few little circles that you traipse around and boundary ride in between in retirement. Social network, I reckon it's important in retirement, for sure. So folks, in summation, 4 key variables for a happy, healthy retirement: diet, exercise, a sense of purpose, and a social network. Hey, what's your strong suit, folks? You know, for me, I think my strong suit is the sense of purpose. You know, I've got to do a bit of work on the other variables, but you know, for me, yeah. So what about you? What's your strong suit in retirement? Don't be afraid to tell us which one it is and why. Share a strategy or an activity connected to diet, exercise, purpose, and network. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to opine. Keep it positive. But most of all, folks, thank you for watching this video, for making it to the end. And I do hope to see you again soon on CoffeeChillTV. As always, cheers for watching.